Okay, so again, when you start RStudio, it should look something like this. I got rid of the legal text, and I asked you to import this data set, okay? And the nice thing is that this link, if you type it in, is just a straight CSV file, okay? Assuming I'm connected to the internet, you know, I can just download this CSV file directly, okay? Or because that link pretty much is a CSV file, I'm going to just package that as a location. So I'm just going to create a variable called location, and I'm creating a URL object. So R recognizes this as a spot on the internet, and it's a CSV. Okay. And I'm just going to use the command read.csv to get it into R, and I'm going to store it into just the variable BP. So it's BP. So this little left arrow thing just says take the results of this. So I'm just going to use the command read.csv, and the CSV file that I want to read is located at the location object that I created, or URL. Okay. So it takes a couple seconds, and there we have it. It's in there. 582 observations on 12 variables. Okay, takes a second to load, and here we have it. Okay, and really the variable of interest is in this column, numeric. Okay, so I can just say, give me a summary of BP $numeric. Okay, and so the $sign says use this column, and it does this, and it says here's your summary information, and it has 6 NAs, but it calculates the median, mean, and max of the pieces of information you do have. You could also ask, give me the mean, but if we ask for that, oops, something happened. It's going to say I don't know the mean, and that's because we're missing data here. So it recognizes that there are 582 observations. 6 of those pieces are missing, so it doesn't know what the mean is with missing data. So you say, well, I want you to ignore the means, and so you say na.rm is equal to true, and it gives us 126.675 here. Okay. I asked you also to create subsets of data. Okay, and there's a few ways we can do this, or calculate the means of the subsets. Oh, I guess one thing I asked you to do is make a histogram, so you can do histogram of BP.numeric, and it creates that. You can increase the number of breaks in the histogram, so you get a little bit more detail in the histogram, and your graph appears that way. When we look at our data set, BP, or whatever you have called it, we notice there are different regions as defined by the World Health Organization. Okay, so depending on who you ask, how many continents or how many regions are there in the world, it's a difficult question to answer, but this is how the World Health Organization has defined regions. Okay, so Canada and Peru are both in the Americas, and we can say, well, let's create a blood pressure data set for the Americas. So I'm creating a new data set called Blood Pressure Americas, called BP.Americas. So in R, you can create pretty much any variable name that you want, but you can't put spaces in there. It can't start with a number, and so the general, I guess, the accepted style is to use dots instead of spaces for things. And you could just, you could call it whatever you want. If you wanted to call it BP1234, you could do that, although that would generally not be regarded as good, best practice. Okay, so we can use the function subset, and what we want is subset. Subset requires a few things. So we're going to say subset the large file BP, and what we want you to do is we will only want the rows where BP $WHO region is equal to Americas. And when I say we only want it where the region is equal to Americas, I have to use two equal signs, because a single equals is an assignment operator. It says assign this to the other thing, assign the value on the right to the thing on the left. But two equals is a test to say, is this equal to Americas? And so we want a subset of the big data file, BP, which has 582 rows, and we only want the rows where the region is equal to Americas. Okay. And so when I do that, we can see it creates a new data set called BP.Americas, and there's only 105 rows. Okay, so we can see in the original data set, if I look at it, there's 582 rows. If I scroll to the bottom, and we've got Europe and Western Pacific and the Americas and all of that. And if I type in, if I say, well, let's look at BP.Americas, it loads and we see, okay, we only have the ones where the countries are in the Americas. Bolivarian Republic of Venezuela. I did not know that that was the full name of the country. Okay. So that's how we can create subsets that way. And then so based on that, I can then ask, give me the mean of the of this column. Okay. And so now to reference the data in this column numeric, we have to say, okay, well, look at BP.Americas, but look at the column numeric. Okay, so you always have to remember when you ask for the mean of something, what you have to give it is a bunch of numeric values. Okay, you can't say, give me the mean of region equal to America, because your data set has a bunch of columns and it doesn't know what you're talking about. So you have to say, well, look at the Americas data set and give me the mean of that. And we ask for that, and it gives us this value. Okay, and we can also create a histogram of the very same thing, BP.Americas $numeric. Okay, and our histogram looks like that, and maybe we want some more detail. So we say breaks equals 30. Maybe that's too much. There's kind of a tuning process, and you get a histogram that looks something like that. Okay, I don't know exactly what this tells us. This is just kind of all the different countries, and we can see, well, most countries the average is something around here. Some countries have higher blood pressure and other countries have lower blood pressure, at least for I think this is systolic blood pressure. And so we have that. Okay, there is there's a nice little function called tapply, and you can tabulate, calculate means of things. So I'm going to say we're going to deal with the original BP data file, okay? And we're going to say I want you to apply this function into basically imagine something. So what we want it to do is we want to deal with the column numeric, okay, which contains all of the numeric values of blood pressure. Okay, what we want to do is we want to group it by region. So I'm going to say BP WHO region. I'm sorry, BP $WHO region. And the function that I want to apply is the mean function. And we're going to give it the optional argument of na.rm is equal to true. And there it has calculated the mean of each of the different of of this column, the numeric column, by the region, and it applied the function mean. Okay, and it's created this little output here. Okay, so we can see that, you know, when we calculated the mean of the America's subset table, we got 124.4257, and we see that has happened here, and it went ahead and did it for the other 5 regions as well. Okay, so you have nice little functions or ways to apply these functions to large data files. Okay, this is probably, you know, a little bit just more advanced as you get more comfortable with things in R, but there is you know, a lot of power, and I think you might. Let's see. Can I say do histogram? Maybe. Yeah, I'm not sure. I don't get it.
Well, I mean,
let's.
If you want to store it, because it's going to print a whole bunch of different
yes.
texts to the console.
Let's see. Okay, yeah. That it prints a bunch of stuff.
That all of them are in. If you click.
If I click the back, yeah, they all appear in under plots, and so you can define the. So basically, we've applied the histogram, and we're accustomed to the histogram function just producing a histogram for us, okay? But it actually creates a bunch of other underlying data that it normally keeps hidden from us, but when you apply tapply, it does that, okay? And so for stuff like this, you can define your output device being, normally it defaults to your monitor, but you can tell R, instead of outputting to the monitor in these things, I want you to output to like a PDF file, and you can tell it to print that way. But so tapply is a neat little function for stuff like this. Again, this is I don't know. This probably saves you a few keystrokes. Doing it this way, okay? And that's, you know, I basically just wanted you to kind of play around and experiment with R to get this, you know. If I wanted you to just get these numbers and just copy the text here, I would have just posted the commands. But that wasn't the point of the lab. It was to get you to try things out, get a little frustrated, and learn that way, okay? Because learning happens when you experience some setbacks and you continue trying, okay? And I know some of you hate this kind of stuff, and I'm sorry, but and so, you know, there's a balance that I try to strike in the class, and that I don't want to bog you down too much, but at the same time I do want to also present a little bit of a challenge here. Okay, so questions? Yes?
In that vein, I think that I put the wrong URL, and I think the URL was missing some of the filtering. So.
No worries, okay? Yeah, it's not like I'm going to be checking for exact numeric values here, okay?
My other question,
yes.
Speaking of exact numeric values, is the reason that in the first section, the values we get are off by like 0.001% or so, was because of the numeric precision of the Z table?
Probably. So your book rounds only gives you Z values up to, you know, for Z equal to 0.02 versus Z equal to 0.03. And R's built-in Z table or normal distribution has a lot more precision. So probably if you're getting answers that are just ever so slightly off, it's probably because R is being more accurate or more precise than what your table is, okay? And Does it really matter? Probably not, okay? Does it, I don't know. I think, when NASA was sending people to the moon, they used slide rules, and you're not getting 10 decimals of precision there, but it's good enough, okay? Maybe if you're doing something else, maybe it might require some more precision, but statistics is messy, right? It's real life data. Things are never going to follow the normal distribution exactly, so it should be fine. Okay. All right. Okay. Well, I guess with that we'll move on. Or are there any other questions? Do you have something? No.
She just was asking if you had collected it already.
Oh yeah. If you want to turn in your papers, that's fine. You can turn them in tonight, also via email before, I would say 10 p.m. and I'll accept it. Okay. If you turn it in after that, you'll lose points for being late, but I think that's fair. So okay. So you can turn it in that way either. Okay. All right. Let me stop this here, and we'll go on with